The jewelry box was open, its carefully preserved contents scattered across my bed like fallen soldiers. 20 years of military service, and I'd never felt more violated than I did in that moment. My own son, Jason, had stolen my most precious heirlooms, the silver locket from my mother, the ruby ring my late husband gave me before his last deployment, and the pearl earrings I'd received for saving 3 of my squad members during a critical mission in Afghanistan. The early morning, light filtered through the curtains of my modest suburban home, casting long shadows across the bedroom. Everything looked the same, yet everything had changed. I'd always prided myself on being a disciplined soldier, on maintaining order and protecting what mattered most. But now, standing in my own bedroom, I felt like I was surveying a battlefield, where I'd been ambushed by the very person I thought I could trust most. I'd never been the type to wear my heart on my sleeve. Military life taught me to be strategic, to assess situations with a clear mind. Jason had always been complicated, struggling since returning from his own tour of duty, battling demons that seemed to consume him slowly. Addiction had been his enemy, a war he'd been fighting privately for years. I'd tried everything: counseling, support groups, financial assistance. Each time, I believed I was helping, but now I realized I might have been enabling his destruction. The previous night replayed in my mind. Jason had come over, ostensibly to have dinner and catch up. We'd shared a meal, talked about his latest job, or lack thereof. He seemed nervous, fidgety, but I chalked it up to his ongoing struggles with PTSD. I'd gone to bed early, exhausted from a long day of volunteer work at the local Veterans Center. Never did I imagine he'd rifle through my personal belongings while I slept. When I discovered the missing items that morning, I'd immediately called him. His phone went straight to voicemail. "Jason, we need to talk, now." My voice was calm, controlled, the same tone I'd used during high-stress missions when lives depended on maintaining composure. The items weren't just valuable, they were my history, my connection to the people I'd loved and lost. The locket contained a tiny photograph of my mother, who had raised me alone after my father died in Vietnam. The ruby ring was a promise from Michael, my husband who never made it home from his last deployment. Each piece told a story of resilience, of survival. I'd always been the family's rock. When Michael died, I continued serving. When Jason struggled with his own post-war challenges, I was there. Financial support, emotional support, second chances. I'd given them all freely. But this was a line I never thought would be crossed. My phone rang. It was my sister, Rachel, who lived across town. "Sarah, are you okay? You sound different." I realized my voice had been flat, devoid of the usual warmth when we spoke. "Jason stole my jewelry," I said simply. "All the pieces that meant something to me." Rachel's intake of breath was sharp. We both knew what those pieces represented. We both understood the depth of this betrayal. The Veterans Center where I volunteered had taught me so much about healing, about second chances. I'd counseled countless veterans and their families through addiction, through loss, through the most challenging transitions of their lives. I'd seen miracles of recovery, witnessed families rebuilding themselves piece by piece. But this felt different. This felt personal. My military pension and savings had already supported Jason through multiple rehab attempts, job training programs, even helping him pay legal fees after his last arrest. I'd never stopped believing he could turn his life around. But belief, I was learning, wasn't enough. Boundaries were necessary. I walked to my home office, a room meticulously organized with the precision of a military strategist. Files from my service, commendations, photographs from deployments, each item carefully preserved. My Purple Heart sat in a glass case, a testament to a moment of sacrifice that had defined part of my life. Sitting at my desk, I pulled out my legal documents. The will I'd drafted years ago suddenly seemed as vulnerable as the jewelry box Jason had ransacked. If he could steal my most precious memories, what else might he be capable of? The irony wasn't lost on me. I had spent decades protecting my country, protecting strangers. And now, I found myself needing to protect myself from my own son. My mind drifted to the support group meetings I'd attended, listening to other veterans share stories of family betrayal, of addiction's cruel grip. I'd always been the one offering comfort, sharing strategies, providing hope. Today, I needed to apply those same principles to my own life. Something had to change. Not just the locks on my doors, but the entire dynamic of our relationship. I wasn't just a mother anymore. I was a veteran who had survived impossible odds, who had learned to adapt, to overcome. If I could navigate war zones, I could certainly navigate this personal battlefield. The decision crystallized in my mind with the same clarity I'd experienced during my most critical missions. I would take control. Not with anger, not with revenge, but with strategic, deliberate action. First, I would change the locks. Then I would review my legal documents. My inheritance would no longer be an open wound for Jason to exploit. I would protect what was mine. Not just my physical belongings, but my peace, my dignity, my future. The jewelry might be gone, but my spirit remained unbroken. And in this moment, I knew my most important mission was just beginning. The local locksmith arrived precisely at 10 a.m., his van pulling into my driveway with military-like punctuality. Mark Henderson, a fellow veteran with weathered hands and kind eyes, understood more than just the mechanics of changing locks. As he worked, we spoke in the shorthand of those who've served. Minimal words, maximum understanding. Changing more than just locks, Sarah? He asked, removing the old deadbolt. I handed him a fresh cup of coffee. Changing everything. My sister Rachel arrived shortly after, bringing with her a calm determination that had always balanced my more reactive nature. She'd been a social worker for decades, witnessing broken families try to rebuild themselves. When I showed her the empty jewelry box, her reaction was measured. "Have you spoken to Jason?" she asked, her fingers tracing the outline of the now empty box. "Not yet," I replied. "But I will." The legal documents spread across my dining room table told a story of careful planning and unconditional love. Years of support, financial assistance, bail money, rehab costs. I'd kept meticulous records. Each receipt, each canceled check was a testament to a mother's love, but also a painful reminder of countless broken promises. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Jason. "Mom, we need to talk." I didn't respond immediately. Years of military training had taught me the value of strategic silence. Rachel helped me organize the documents, her professional eye catching details I might have missed. Medical records from his multiple rehab attempts, police reports from his arrests, employment records showing a pattern of short-lived jobs. The narrative was clear. Jason was stuck in a cycle of destruction, and my continuous support had become an enabler. "You realize this isn't just about the stolen jewelry?" Rachel said, spreading out the documents. I knew exactly what she meant. This was about boundaries, about self-preservation, about understanding that love sometimes means letting go. The Veterans Center where I volunteered had become more than just a place of work. It was a sanctuary of healing, of understanding the complex trauma that veterans carry. I'd counseled countless individuals through their darkest moments, always believing in the possibility of redemption. But redemption, I was learning, couldn't be forced. It had to be chosen. My phone rang. This time it was Michael's old military buddy, Frank, who now worked as a financial advisor. "Sarah, I heard what happened," he said without preamble. "I've seen this story play out too many times. Veterans' families torn apart by addiction, by trauma." We discussed my options carefully. Protecting my assets wasn't about punishment. It was about survival. Frank helped me understand the legal mechanisms to safeguard my inheritance, to create clear boundaries that couldn't be crossed. That afternoon, I drove to the local courthouse. The familiar bureaucratic environment felt almost comforting. Another system I understood, another mission to complete. I filed preliminary documents to modify my will, to create trusts with specific conditions. Jason would no longer have unrestricted access to my financial resources. The clerk, a young woman with kind eyes, looked at me with a mixture of compassion and respect. "Are you okay?" she asked. I realized I was truly okay for the first time in years. As I drove home, memories flooded back. Jason's childhood, his decision to join the military, the pride I'd felt when he first put on the uniform, the transformation that happened during his deployment, the struggle he faced upon returning, the slow descent into addiction, the countless interventions, the repeated promises of change. I thought about the jewelry he'd stolen. Each piece was more than just a material possession. They were memories, connections to people I'd loved and lost. The locket from my mother, a woman who'd taught me resilience. The ruby ring from Michael, a symbol of a love that survived even death. The pearl earrings, a reminder of a moment of courage that had saved lives. By taking them, Jason had revealed something profound. He didn't just want money. He wanted to erase my history, to reduce me to a transaction. That evening, I sat on the back porch, watching the sunset. The same porch where Michael and I had shared countless conversations, where I'd watched Jason grow up, where I'd processed my own post-deployment challenges. I wasn't angry. Anger was a luxury I couldn't afford. I was determined. The locks had been changed. The legal documents were being restructured. But the most significant change was happening inside me. A recalibration of love, of boundaries, of self-worth. Jason would receive one final chance. Not through unlimited financial support, but through a structured path to recovery. Conditional assistance that required accountability, progress, genuine effort. As darkness fell, I made a decision. I would write Jason a letter, not an accusatory message, but a declaration of love. A love that now included loving myself enough to stop the cycle of destruction. The mission had changed, and I was ready. The letter sat on my desk for 3 days before I mailed it. Each word, carefully chosen, each sentence a delicate balance between compassion and clarity. I'd learned in the military that communication could be more powerful than any weapon. Precision was key. When Jason finally called, his voice was a mixture of desperation and anger. "How could you?" he demanded. The accusation hung in the air, a familiar refrain I'd heard too many times before. "How could I what?" I responded, my tone steady. "Protect myself? Set boundaries?" The veterans support group I'd attended for years had prepared me for conversations like these. I'd listened to countless stories of families torn apart by addiction, by unresolved trauma, by the invisible wounds of war. Each story was different, yet painfully similar. The conditions of my support were clear. Jason would need to complete a 6-month rehabilitation program, a genuine, comprehensive treatment that addressed both his addiction and his underlying trauma. He would need to maintain consistent employment, attend weekly counseling, and submit to periodic drug testing. No more blank checks, no more bail money, no more unconditional financial support. "I'm not abandoning you," I told him. "I'm giving you a path to rebuild yourself." Silence filled the phone line. I could almost hear the war raging inside him, the part that wanted help, and the part that refused to admit weakness. Rachel visited the next day, bringing homemade lasagna and a stack of resources she'd compiled. Years of social work had given her an extensive network of support services, rehabilitation centers, and counseling programs specifically designed for veterans. "You're doing the right thing," she said, watching me organize the documents. The stolen jewelry weighed on me, not for its monetary value, but for its emotional significance. Each piece was a connection to my past, to my mother, to Michael, to the moments that had defined my life. Jason's betrayal wasn't just about theft. It was about disrespecting the memories that had sustained me through my darkest moments. I reached out to Frank, Michael's old military buddy, who now worked as a financial advisor. Together, we restructured my assets, creating a trust with strict conditions. Jason would have access to resources, but only if he demonstrated consistent progress and accountability. The Veterans Center became my sanctuary during this time. I threw myself into volunteer work, counseling other veterans and their families struggling with similar challenges. Each story reminded me that my journey wasn't unique. It was part of a larger narrative of survival, of reclaiming one's life. 1. Morning. A young veteran named Elena approached me after a support group session. Her hands shook slightly as she shared her story of addiction, of losing everything, of fighting to rebuild. "How do you stay so strong?" she asked. I smiled. Strength isn't about never breaking. It's about how you put yourself back together. Jason's first response to my conditions came through a reluctant text message. He would consider the rehabilitation program, but he needed time. I recognized the pattern, the resistance, the slow acceptance, the glimmer of hope. The local veterans support network became my allies. They understood the complex dance of tough love, of supporting without enabling. Frank helped me navigate the legal intricacies. Rachel provided emotional support, and the counselors at the Veterans Center offered insights drawn from years of experience. Weeks passed. The house felt different, quieter, but not empty. I began to reclaim spaces I had previously dedicated to Jason's potential return. The spare room became a craft studio, filled with photography equipment and art supplies. I started taking classes, exploring creativity I had suppressed for years. My military pension and savings, previously seen as a safety net for Jason, now became a source of personal exploration. I signed up for a photography workshop, something I had always wanted to do but never found the time. The instructor, a fellow veteran, recognized the discipline in my approach. The same strategic thinking that had defined my military career now applied to composition and light. The stolen jewelry remained a tender point. I filed a police report, not with the expectation of recovery, but as a formal acknowledgement of the violation. Each piece was more than just an object. They were chapters of my life, witnesses to my journey. Frank helped me create a comprehensive financial plan that protected my assets while still leaving room for potential reconciliation. The trust was structured with compassion. Jason could access funds for education, for rehabilitation, for genuine steps toward recovery. But gone were the days of unconditional financial support. Rachel continued to be my anchor, bringing perspective when emotions threatened to overwhelm me. "You're not just protecting yourself," she reminded me. "You're giving Jason the most powerful gift, the opportunity to take responsibility for his own life." As autumn approached, I felt a transformation happening, not just in my external circumstances, but in my internal landscape. The anger had dissipated, replaced by a calm determination. I was no longer defined by my role as a mother who could fix everything. I was becoming something more, a woman reclaiming her narrative, writing her own story. The stolen jewelry had been a catalyst, but they were just objects. My real treasure was the strength I was discovering, the boundaries I was establishing, the life I was choosing to live. Jason's path forward remained uncertain, but my path was becoming clear with each passing day. I was a veteran, I was a survivor, and most importantly, I was finally choosing myself. 6 months had passed since I changed the locks and restructured my life. The photography workshop had become more than just a hobby. It was a form of therapy, a way of capturing moments of resilience and beauty. My latest project focused on veteran stories, capturing portraits that revealed the complexity behind their uniforms. Each photograph was a testament to survival, to transformation. The exhibition would be held at the local Veterans Center, a space that had become my second home. Jason's progress had been sporadic. He'd entered the rehabilitation program, but his commitment wavered. Periodic updates from his counselor painted a picture of a man wrestling with his demons, taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back. A letter arrived unexpectedly one crisp November morning. The envelope was different, professional, carefully addressed. I recognized the letterhead of the rehabilitation center before I even opened it. "Dear Mrs. Thompson," it began. The formal address felt both distant and intimate. The counselor detailed Jason's progress and his challenges. He had completed 3 months of the 6-month program, but struggled with consistent engagement. There were moments of breakthrough, followed by periods of resistance. Yet, something had changed. He was showing a level of self-awareness he'd never demonstrated before. Rachel visited that afternoon, bringing fresh-baked bread and a perspective only a sister could provide. We spread the letter on the kitchen table, analyzing every nuanced detail. "He's trying," she said quietly. "Really trying this time." The Veterans Support Group had taught me to recognize the difference between hope and delusion. Progress wasn't linear. Recovery was a journey with multiple detours, false starts, and unexpected turns. My phone rang. It was Frank, Michael's old military buddy, now more of a family confidant than just a financial advisor. "Sarah, I've been reviewing the trust documents," he began. "Jason's made some initial steps that meet the conditions we established. The trust was designed as more than just a financial instrument. It was a lifeline, a structured path to redemption. Access to funds was tied to specific milestones: completed rehabilitation, consistent employment, ongoing counseling. I thought about the stolen jewelry, about the memories those pieces represented. The locket from my mother, the ruby ring from Michael, the pearl earrings that symbolized a moment of courage. They were gone, but something more valuable was emerging: a chance for genuine healing. The photography exhibition was approaching. I'd selected 12 portraits, each telling a different story of veteran resilience. My own journey was reflected in these images: the strength found in vulnerability, the courage in choosing oneself. Elena, the young veteran who had first approached me at the support group, was helping me prepare. Her own journey of recovery had become intertwined with mine. She'd found work, rebuilt relationships, discovered a purpose beyond her past struggles. "Your son's story isn't over," she told me one afternoon as we hung the photographs. "Neither is yours." Jason called on a Tuesday evening. His voice was different, less defensive, more contemplative. He spoke about the rehabilitation program, about the counseling sessions that were forcing him to confront his trauma. "I'm sorry about the jewelry," he said. The words felt genuine, stripped of manipulation. I didn't immediately respond. In the military, I'd learned the power of listening, of creating space for truth to emerge. He continued, explaining the triggers that had led to his actions: the financial stress, the unresolved trauma from his deployment, the shame of his addiction. It wasn't an excuse, but it was an explanation. The exhibition opening night arrived. The Veterans Center was transformed, each photograph telling a story of survival, of transformation. My portrait of Elena hung prominently, a woman looking directly into the camera, her eyes reflecting both pain and hope. Frank and Rachel attended, providing silent support. The room filled with veterans, families, community members. Each photograph was more than an image. It was a testimony. Jason arrived late, looking uncertain. He wore a suit that seemed slightly too big, as if he was still growing into the person he was becoming. Our eyes met across the room, a moment of recognition, of potential reconciliation. He approached slowly, carrying a small package. "I found something," he said, handing it to me. Inside was a collection of old photographs, images from my own military service that I thought had been lost years ago. Family snapshots, moments with Michael, images of Jason as a child. Someone had carefully preserved them, protecting these memories through years of chaos. "I didn't steal these," he said quickly. "I've been collecting them, trying to remember who we were before everything fell apart." The evening continued. Conversations flowed, stories were shared. My photograph of Jason, taken months ago before his rehabilitation, hung in the exhibition. It captured a moment of vulnerability, of a man on the cusp of transformation. As the night wound down, we stood together, not as mother and son defined by past hurts, but as two individuals choosing a different path. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," Jason said. "I'm asking for a chance to be better." The stolen jewelry had been a breaking point, but they were just objects. The real treasure was this moment, the possibility of healing, of understanding, of choosing a different story. My life was no longer about fixing Jason. It was about continuing to build my own narrative of strength, of resilience, of hope. A year had passed since the night of the photography exhibition. The world had continued to turn, reshape itself, much like I had reshaped my own life. My studio, once a spare room, cluttered with Jason's abandoned belongings, now hummed with creative energy. Photographs lined the walls, each image a testament to stories of survival and transformation. The trust we'd established for Jason had become more than a financial arrangement. It was a bridge, carefully constructed with compassion and strategic boundaries. His progress wasn't linear, but it was genuine. Monthly reports from his counselor and periodic check-ins with Frank painted a picture of slow, deliberate healing. One crisp morning, Elena, the veteran who had become a close friend through the support group, arrived with a proposal. The local community college was looking for someone to develop a program supporting veterans transitioning to civilian life. My name had come up repeatedly. "They want someone who understands," Elena said, spreading the job description on my kitchen table. "Someone who's lived the journey." The irony wasn't lost on me. Years ago, I would have dismissed such an opportunity, believing my entire purpose was to support Jason. Now, I saw it as a potential mission, a way to transform my personal experiences into a broader form of support. Jason's latest update came through a handwritten letter, a deliberate choice that spoke volumes. He was working steadily at a local landscaping company, attending weekly counseling, and had begun taking online classes. The trust funds were being used exactly as intended, for education, for recovery, for rebuilding. Rachel visited that weekend, bringing her analytical social worker's perspective. We spread Jason's letter alongside the job proposal, examining each detail with the precision of military strategists. "You've always been more than just a mother," she said, watching me carefully. "You're becoming something else entirely." The stolen jewelry remained a distant memory. Those physical tokens had been replaced by something more valuable, a newfound understanding, a relationship based on mutual respect and accountability. My photography had evolved. What began as a therapeutic hobby had transformed into a powerful medium for storytelling. The exhibition had caught the attention of local veterans organizations, leading to more opportunities to capture and share stories of resilience. Frank suggested we modify the trust slightly, not to restrict Jason further, but to create more opportunities for growth, a provision for additional education, for professional development, for continued counseling support. Each modification was a carefully considered step. The community college interview was nothing like I expected. Instead of feeling like I was being evaluated, I felt I was being invited to contribute to a larger mission. They were looking for someone who understood the complex transition veterans face, not just from military to civilian life, but from trauma to healing. Your son's journey, the department head said, is part of a larger narrative we're trying to understand and support. I thought about the stolen jewelry, how that moment of betrayal had been a catalyst for something much larger. How losing those physical memories had forced me to recognize the more important memories I carried within. Jason began sending photographs with his letters, images of his work, of the landscapes he was helping to shape. Each photo was a silent communication, a way of showing progress, of rebuilding trust. The Veterans Support Group became more than just a monthly meeting. We were creating a network, a community of healing. Elena had started a mentorship program. I found myself teaching photography workshops, helping veterans discover new ways of seeing themselves. My relationship with Jason was no longer defined by expectation or disappointment. We were learning to communicate, not as a mother trying to fix her son, but as two individuals who had survived their own wars. The trust fund became a living document. Each modification was a negotiation, a careful balance between support and accountability. Frank helped me navigate the legal complexities, ensuring that Jason had opportunities without removing the responsibility for his own growth. My photography project expanded. I began documenting veterans' transition stories, not just as images, but as comprehensive narratives of resilience. The community college took notice, eventually offering me a part-time teaching position in their veterans support program. Rachel watched this transformation with a mixture of pride and amazement. "You're creating something bigger than yourself," she observed during one of our weekend coffee meetings. The stolen jewelry had been valuable, but the true treasure was this journey of rediscovery, for both Jason and myself. We were learning that family isn't about possession or control, but about growth, about choosing each other in new ways. As autumn approached, Jason invited me to see the landscaping project he was completing. The invitation came through a carefully worded letter, each sentence revealing a maturity I hadn't seen before. Standing on the newly landscaped property, watching him discuss the design with his supervisor, I realized something profound. The locks I'd changed that day were more than just physical barriers. They were a boundary of self-respect, a declaration that my worth wasn't determined by my ability to rescue someone else. My life had become a landscape of its own, carefully tended, deliberately cultivated, blooming in ways I never could have imagined. The stolen jewelry was gone. But I had found something far more precious: myself. The invitation arrived on a Tuesday. Crisp, official, unexpected. A national veterans conference seeking keynote speakers who could authentically speak to resilience, to transformation. My photograph series on veterans' journeys had caught the attention of a prominent veterans advocacy organization. Elena helped me prepare, spending weeks reviewing potential narratives, selecting the most powerful images from my collection. The photographs weren't just visual records. They were testimonies of survival, of reclaiming one's narrative. Jason's latest letter arrived the week before my conference presentation. His handwriting had changed, more deliberate, more confident. He wrote about his ongoing counseling, about the landscaping business he was considering starting, about the ongoing process of rebuilding. "I never understood the difference between asking for help and demanding rescue," he wrote. "Now I'm learning." The morning of the conference, Rachel accompanied me. We'd become more than sisters. We were co-architects of my transformation. She helped me select a navy blazer that spoke of military precision while reflecting my newfound creative spirit. The conference hall was filled with veterans from various generations, various conflicts. My presentation wasn't just about my story. It was about the collective journey of healing, of understanding that vulnerability is its own form of strength. Spoke about the stolen jewelry, about the moment I realized my worth wasn't defined by what I could give, but by who I was becoming. The audience listened in a profound silence that felt like collective understanding. The most dangerous battlefield, I told them, is the one inside ourselves. The war isn't about what happens to us, but how we choose to respond. Frank sat in the back of the hall, a silent supporter who had helped me navigate the financial and legal complexities of my journey. The trust we'd created for Jason was more than a financial instrument. It was a blueprint for compassionate accountability. During the break, veterans approached me. Some shared similar stories of family struggles, of addiction, of finding hope, in unexpected places. Each conversation was a thread in a larger tapestry of resilience. A young veteran named Marcus, wearing a prosthetic leg, shared his own story of rebuilding. "Your photograph of Elena," he said, "it changed how I see my own journey." The conference organizers offered me a position, developing support programs for veterans transitioning to civilian life. It wasn't just a job. It was a mission, a way to transform personal pain into collective healing, Jason called that evening. He'd been following the conference through social media, watching my presentation online. "I'm proud of you," he said. Words I'd waited years to hear, but now understood didn't define my worth. The community college expanded my part-time teaching position. I developed a comprehensive program supporting veterans' mental health, using photography as a tool for storytelling and healing. Elena became my co-facilitator, our shared experiences creating a powerful support network. Rachel helped me organize a small exhibition of veterans' photographs at the local community center. Each image told a story of transformation, of finding hope beyond trauma. Jason contributed photographs from his landscaping work, scenes of renewal, of careful cultivation. The stolen jewelry had been a catalyst, but they were just objects. The real treasure was the network of support we'd built, the understanding we'd developed. My relationship with Jason continued to evolve. Not a relationship of dependency, but of mutual respect. He visited occasionally, bringing photographs of his latest projects, sharing stories of his ongoing recovery. The trust fund became a living document of hope, provisions for continued education, for counseling, for professional development. Each modification a testament to the possibility of healing. During one of our conversations, Jason shared something profound. "I used to think asking for help was weakness," he said. "Now I understand it's the strongest thing a person can do." The Veterans Support Group became a lifeline for many. We created a mentorship program, connecting veterans at different stages of their journey. My photography workshops became a tool for healing, for understanding. Frank helped me establish a small foundation, using some of the funds originally intended for Jason. It would support veterans developing creative outlets for healing, photography, writing, art therapy. On the anniversary of changing the locks, I created a special photograph. It showed my hands, one holding the old lock, one holding a key. A visual representation of boundaries, of choice, of transformation. The community college offered me a full-time position developing veterans support programs. My experience, my journey became a roadmap for others navigating similar challenges. Elena and I continued our work, expanding the support network. Each workshop, each presentation was a reminder that healing is not a destination, but a continuous journey. Jason sent a photograph for my birthday. A landscape he'd designed, featuring a rose garden. In the corner, a small note. "Some things take time to bloom." My life had become a mosaic of unexpected beauty. The stolen jewelry was gone, but I had found something far more precious. A sense of self, of purpose, of hope. Standing in my studio, surrounded by photographs that told stories of resilience, I realized the most important lock I'd changed was the one in my own mind. The key was understanding that my worth was never about what I could give, but about who I was becoming. The journey continues. Always. 5 years had passed since that pivotal moment when I changed the locks and redefined my life. The landscape had transformed, both literally and metaphorically. My photography and veteran support work had become a national model for holistic healing, bridging the gap between personal trauma and collective resilience. The foundation Frank and I established had grown beyond our initial expectations. We'd created scholarships for veterans pursuing creative therapies, developed mentorship programs, and established support networks that extended far beyond traditional veteran support services. Jason's landscaping business had become a thriving enterprise. He specialized in therapeutic garden designs for rehabilitation centers and veterans treatment facilities. Each project was more than just a landscape. It was a carefully crafted journey of healing. The National Veterans Conference had become an annual event where I now served as a keynote speaker and program developer. My photograph series had been compiled into a book, Roots of Resilience, documenting veterans' stories of transformation. Elena had become more than a colleague. She was a partner in our mission. Together, we developed innovative programs that approached veterans' mental health from multiple angles: art therapy, photography workshops, support groups that went beyond traditional counseling models. A breakthrough came when the Department of Veterans Affairs approached us about implementing our holistic support model nationwide. The program we'd developed wasn't just about treating trauma, it was about reimagining recovery. Jason's latest project was particularly meaningful. He'd designed a healing garden at a local veterans rehabilitation center, a space that combined landscaping with therapeutic principles. Each plant, each pathway was carefully considered, creating a living metaphor of recovery. Rachel continued to be my anchor, helping manage the administrative side of our growing foundation. Her social work background provided a critical perspective, ensuring our programs remained both compassionate and practical. The stolen jewelry had become a distant memory, a footnote in a much larger story of transformation. What once seemed like an unforgivable betrayal had become the catalyst for an entirely new approach to veteran support. Our foundation launched a national storytelling project using photography and creative arts to help veterans document their journeys. It wasn't about glorifying military service, but about understanding the complex human experience behind the uniform. Frank had retired from financial advising but remained a crucial advisor to our foundation. The trust we'd created for Jason had evolved into a model for supporting veterans' personal and professional development. A documentary crew approached us about filming our work. They were interested in the story of how a single moment of betrayal had transformed into a national movement of healing. Jason invited me to see the rehabilitation center garden on a crisp autumn morning. Walking through the carefully designed space, I saw more than just plants and pathways. I saw stories of recovery, of hope, of transformation. I never thought I'd understand landscaping as a form of healing, Jason said, pointing out specific design elements. But now I see how creating something can be a way of rebuilding yourself. The veterans support network we'd created had become a living, breathing ecosystem. Veterans from different generations, different conflicts found connection through our programs: photography workshops, creative writing groups, mentorship programs, each offering a different path to healing. Elena developed a technology platform that connected veterans across the country, creating virtual support networks. It wasn't just about sharing experiences, but about creating ongoing, meaningful connections. Our annual conference had grown from a small gathering to a national event. Veterans, mental health professionals, advocates from across the country came together to share, to learn, to reimagine support. The Department of Veterans Affairs began implementing our holistic approach in treatment centers nationwide. Our model challenged traditional approaches to veteran support, emphasizing creative expression and personal agency. Jason's landscaping business expanded, but he remained committed to our foundation's mission. He developed specialized training programs for veterans transitioning to careers in landscape design and environmental therapy. A research study published in a prominent medical journal validated the effectiveness of our holistic approach. The data showed significant improvements in veterans' mental health, job retention, and overall quality of life. I reflected on the journey, from that moment of betrayal to this expansive network of support. The stolen jewelry had been a breaking point, but it wasn't the definition of our story. Rachel helped me compile a comprehensive memoir, documenting not just my personal journey, but the broader movement we'd created. It wasn't just a book, it was a blueprint for healing. The foundation established scholarships for veterans pursuing creative therapies, non-traditional healing approaches, and innovative support methods. Each scholarship was more than financial support. It was a statement of belief in potential. Jason and I developed a joint program supporting veterans' entrepreneurship, focusing on businesses that created social impact. Our personal journey had become a model for collective transformation. Elena received a national award for her innovative work in veteran support technologies. Her platform had connected thousands of veterans, creating support networks that transcended geographical boundaries. Standing in the rehabilitation center garden, watching veterans engage with the space Jason had designed, I understood something profound. Healing isn't a destination. It's a continuous journey of creation, of reimagining, of choosing hope. The locks I'd changed years ago were more than physical barriers. They were an invitation to a different way of understanding ourselves, of supporting each other. Our story continues, always. The White House invitation arrived on a Tuesday, sealed in an official envelope that seemed to carry the weight of history. Our Veterans Support Foundation had been selected to receive a National Innovation Award, recognizing the transformative work we'd developed over the past decade. Jason flew in from California, staying at my home the night before the ceremony. We sat on the back porch, surrounded by the gardens he had designed, a living testament to our journey of healing and reconnection. The evening air was thick with memories, with the complexity of our shared history. "I never thought we'd be here," he said, looking out over the meticulously designed landscape. Each plant, each pathway represented more than just aesthetic design. They were metaphors of recovery, of careful growth, of intentional healing. The foundation had become more than just a support network. It was a movement that challenged traditional approaches to veteran support, bridging mental health, creative expression, and personal empowerment. Our work had attracted national attention. Research universities were studying our holistic approach, documenting the profound impact of creative therapies on veteran recovery. The model we'd developed went beyond traditional counseling. It was about reimagining healing as a creative, collaborative process. Elena arrived early the next morning, bringing a sense of energy that had become her trademark. She'd transformed our initial photography and support group concept into a global network connecting veterans across different generations, different conflicts. The White House ceremony was more than just an award. It was a validation of a journey that began with a moment of personal betrayal, the stolen jewelry that had become a distant memory, replaced by something far more significant. Frank, now semi-retired, helped us prepare the acceptance speech. His financial acumen had been crucial in establishing the foundation's infrastructure, ensuring we could scale our impact while maintaining our core mission. Rachel assisted with the final edits, her social work background providing a critical perspective. We'd learned that impact wasn't about grand gestures, but about carefully designed, compassionate interventions. The ceremony hall was filled with veterans, advocates, government officials. As I approached the podium, I caught sight of Marcus, the veteran with the prosthetic leg who had first connected with our work years ago. He was now a lead coordinator for our National Veterans Support Program. Healing is not a destination, I began, my voice steady. It's a continuous journey of creation, of reimagining, of choosing hope. I spoke about the Foundation's journey, how a personal moment of betrayal had transformed into a national movement of support, how we'd developed programs that went beyond traditional veteran support, integrating creative therapies, entrepreneurship training, mental health support. Jason sat in the front row, a visual representation of our journey. His landscaping business had become a model for veteran entrepreneurship, specializing in therapeutic environmental design. He'd turned his personal struggle into a mission of healing. The Foundation had developed multiple innovative programs. Creative, arts therapy workshops for veterans entrepreneurship, training and support technology platforms connecting veterans nationwide, holistic mental health support, networks, specialized education and career development programs. After the ceremony, a young veteran approached me, Sarah Martinez, an Iraq War veteran who had participated in our early programs. She was now leading a national veterans mental health initiative. "You showed me that my trauma wasn't my entire story," she said, her eyes bright with emotion. The technology platform Elena had developed had connected thousands of veterans. It wasn't just about sharing experiences, but about creating meaningful, ongoing support networks that transcended geographical and generational boundaries. Our research had demonstrated remarkable outcomes. Veterans participating in our holistic programs showed significant improvements in mental health and well-being, job retention, personal relationships, overall quality of life. The Department of Veterans Affairs had begun implementing aspects of our model nationwide. What had started as a personal journey had become a systemic approach to veteran support. Jason's landscaping business had expanded to include therapeutic garden design for rehabilitation centers. Each project was more than just a landscape. It was a carefully crafted journey of healing. Rachel had helped develop a comprehensive training program for mental health professionals, integrating our holistic approach into professional education curricula. The book I'd written, Roots of Resilience, had become required reading in many veterans support programs. It wasn't just a memoir, but a blueprint for understanding trauma, recovery, and personal transformation. Frank had established a scholarship program supporting veterans pursuing innovative approaches to healing and entrepreneurship. Each scholarship was a statement of belief in potential, in the power of reimagining one's story. As the evening wound down, I found myself reflecting on the journey. The stolen jewelry that had once seemed like an unforgivable betrayal was now just a distant memory, a catalyst for something far more significant. Jason and I stood together, watching the sunset. Our relationship had transformed from a narrative of pain to one of mutual respect, of shared purpose. "Remember when I thought the world was ending?" Jason said, a hint of his old vulnerability mixing with newfound confidence. I smiled. The locks I'd changed years ago weren't just about physical security. They were an invitation to a different way of understanding ourselves, of supporting each other. The Foundation continued to grow, to evolve, but its core remained unchanged, a belief in the power of resilience, of creative expression, of choosing hope. Our story was still being written. Always. The diagnosis came on a crisp autumn morning, the kind of day that used to remind me of military formations, precise, uncompromising. Cancer. Stage 3. The words hung in the air of the doctor's office, suspended like dust motes in a shaft of sunlight. Jason was the first to know. I called him directly, my military training kicking. In direct communication, no unnecessary elaboration. "I've got a challenge ahead," I told him. Those words carried more weight than any medical terminology. Elena and Rachel arrived within hours, transforming my living room into a strategic command center. Medical documents, treatment plans, support network contacts. We approached this, like any mission, with precision and collective strength. The foundation we'd built became my greatest source of support. Years of creating support networks for veterans now came full circle. The very systems we'd developed to help others would now support me. Treatment was brutal. Chemotherapy stripped away more than just cancer cells. It challenged every notion of strength I'd ever understood. The strong, disciplined veteran who had built a national support network now found herself vulnerable, dependent. Jason took a leave of absence from his landscaping business. He converted part of my home into a healing space, applying the same principles of therapeutic design we'd championed for years. Each room became a carefully considered environment designed to support healing. Marcus, the veteran who had first connected with our work years ago, coordinated a support network specifically for me. Veterans from across the country sent care, packages, messages, support. The community we'd built now surrounded me like a protective force field. My photography project took an unexpected turn. Instead of documenting other veterans' stories, I began capturing my own journey of treatment, of vulnerability, of resilience. Each image was a defiance, a statement that illness was not the end of the story. Frank helped restructure the foundation's leadership to ensure continuity. Elena would take a more prominent role, with Jason serving on the advisory board. Our work was bigger than any single person, a lesson I'd learned repeatedly throughout my journey. Experimental treatments became an option. The same innovative spirit we'd championed in veteran support now applied to my medical journey. Clinical trials, cutting-edge therapies. I approached each possibility with the strategic mindset of a veteran evaluating a mission. Rachel coordinated my medical care with the same meticulous attention she'd applied to our foundation's programs. Medical appointments became strategic planning sessions. Every test, every treatment was an opportunity to gather data, to understand, to fight. The National Veterans Network we'd created now became my personal support system. Care packages arrived from veterans across the country. Handwritten letters, artwork, photographs, each a testament to the community we'd built. Jason documented the journey through his unique lens of landscape and healing. He created a therapeutic garden specifically designed for cancer patients, inspired by my treatment experience. What began as a personal challenge became another avenue of support and healing. My medical team became fascinated by my approach. A lifetime of military discipline, of veteran resilience, translated into a unique way of facing illness. Psychological support, creative expression, community connection. The holistic model we'd developed for veterans now applied to my personal health journey. Elena expanded our foundation's work to include comprehensive support for veterans facing chronic illness. What had begun as my personal challenge became another opportunity to support others, to create meaningful change. The photography exhibition documenting my treatment journey became a powerful statement about vulnerability, strength, resilience. Each image challenged traditional narratives about illness, about aging, about survival. World-renowned medical researchers became interested in our approach. The holistic model of support we'd developed for veterans now offered insights into comprehensive patient care. Medical conferences invited me to speak, to share our approach. Jason's landscaping business developed a new branch focusing on therapeutic environments for medical treatment centers. Our personal journey continued to create opportunities for broader impact. Rachel helped me write a comprehensive guide, not just about facing illness, but about maintaining purpose, about finding strength in vulnerability. The book became a resource for patients, caregivers, medical professionals. Frank ensured the foundation's financial stability, creating endowments that would support our work regardless of individual challenges. Our vision extended beyond any single person's journey. The National Veterans Support Network we'd created now surrounded me in my most vulnerable moment. Care packages, support groups, creative therapy sessions. The community became my lifeline. Experimental immunotherapy showed promising results. The same innovative spirit we'd championed in veteran support now applied to my medical journey. Each treatment became a mission, each medical appointment a strategic planning session. My photography evolved. No longer just documenting stories, I was now creating a visual narrative of resilience, of transformation. Each image challenged traditional narratives about illness, about aging, about survival. The White House reached out. Our approach to holistic support was being considered as a model for national healthcare initiatives. What had begun as a personal journey of healing had become a blueprint for systemic change. Jason and I recorded a documentary about our journey, from the moment of betrayal with the stolen jewelry to this current challenge. It wasn't a story of defeat, but of continuous transformation, of choosing hope in every moment. Elena expanded our foundation's research, exploring the intersection of creative expression, community support, and medical treatment. Our work continued to challenge traditional approaches to healing. As treatments progressed, I realized something profound. The locks I'd changed years ago weren't just about physical security. They were an invitation to a different way of understanding ourselves, of supporting each other. Our story was still being written. Always. Remission arrived like an unexpected dawn, gradual, transformative, filled with a light that seemed to redefine everything. The medical team called it a remarkable recovery. I called it another mission accomplished, another chapter of resilience written. The global veterans support network we'd built became a case study in holistic healing. Medical researchers from 3 continents studied our approach, examining how creative expression, community support, and innovative treatment strategies could transform patient outcomes. Jason's therapeutic landscape design had evolved into a comprehensive healing environment methodology. Research institutions were now implementing his designs in medical centers, rehabilitation facilities, and mental health treatment spaces. What had begun as a personal journey of redemption had become a revolutionary approach to environmental healing. Elena expanded our foundation's work, developing a comprehensive digital platform that connected patients, caregivers, medical professionals, and support networks. The technology bridged geographical barriers, creating a global community of support and shared knowledge. Rachel helped publish a comprehensive medical research paper documenting my treatment journey. It wasn't just a medical case study. It was a narrative of resilience, of choosing hope in the face of seemingly insurmountable challenges. Frank restructured the foundation's financial strategies, ensuring our work could continue to expand and innovate. Endowments were established, research grants created, supporting ongoing exploration of holistic healing approaches. The documentary we'd created about our journey began screening at film festivals. It wasn't just a personal story, it was a testament to the power of transformation, of choosing connection over isolation. My photography exhibition documenting the treatment journey toured major medical conferences. Each image challenged traditional narratives about illness, about aging, about survival. Museums began acquiring the collection, recognizing its profound cultural significance. The White House invited me to speak at a National Healthcare Innovation Summit. My presentation wasn't about medical statistics. It was about the human capacity for resilience, for reimagining healing as a collective journey. Jason's landscaping business had transformed into a global design consultancy specializing in therapeutic, environmental design. Major healthcare institutions were now implementing his approach to creating healing spaces that supported patient recovery. Elena developed an artificial intelligence platform that could provide personalized support strategies for patients facing chronic illness. The technology drew from our foundation's decade of research, creating a revolutionary approach to patient support. Marcus, who had been with our journey from the early days, now led a national veterans health innovation program. The support network we'd created had become a model for comprehensive patient care. My medical team continued to study the unique approach we'd developed. The holistic model of support, integrating creative expression, community connection, and innovative treatment strategies, was challenging traditional medical paradigms. The Foundation launched a global research initiative exploring the intersection of creative expression, community support, and medical treatment. Universities from around the world began collaborating, expanding our initial work into a comprehensive field of study. Rachel published a comprehensive guide for caregivers, drawing from our Foundation's research and our personal journey. The book became a critical resource for families navigating complex medical challenges. Frank established an innovation fund supporting emerging researchers exploring holistic approaches to patient care. The fund provided grants, mentorship, and resources to healthcare professionals seeking to challenge traditional treatment models. The technology platform Elena developed expanded to support patients across various medical conditions. What had begun as a veteran support network had transformed into a global community of healing and support. My photography project evolved, documenting not just medical journeys, but the broader human capacity for transformation. Major art institutions began acquiring the collection, recognizing its profound cultural significance. Jason continued to develop innovative therapeutic landscape designs. Healthcare institutions worldwide were now implementing his approach, creating healing environments that supported patient recovery and well-being. The documentary about our journey began winning international awards. Film festivals recognized it as a powerful exploration of family, resilience, and the human capacity for transformation. Global medical conferences invited me to speak, to share our approach to holistic healing. The model we'd developed challenged traditional medical paradigms, offering a more comprehensive approach to patient care. Elena's artificial intelligence platform continued to evolve, providing increasingly sophisticated, personalized support strategies. The technology drew from our Foundation's decade of research, creating unprecedented patient support resources. Marcus expanded the Veterans Health Innovation Program, developing comprehensive support strategies for veterans facing various health challenges. The network we'd created had become a global model for patient support. Rachel continued to develop educational resources for healthcare professionals, sharing our holistic approach to patient care. Medical schools began incorporating our research into their curriculum. Frank's Innovation Fund supported groundbreaking research exploring the intersection of creative expression, community support, and medical treatment. The fund became a critical resource for emerging healthcare innovators. The global veterans support network we'd built continued to expand, creating unprecedented opportunities for connection, support, and healing. What had begun as a personal journey had transformed into a global movement. As I reflected on our journey, I realized something profound. The locks I'd changed years ago weren't just about physical security. They were an invitation to a different way of understanding ourselves, of supporting each other. Our story was still being written. Always. The Nobel Peace Prize nomination arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning, its significance taking a moment to fully register. Our Foundation's work in holistic healing, veterans support, and global community building had attracted international recognition far beyond anything we could have imagined. Jason arrived that afternoon, bringing with him a portfolio of international landscape design projects that had revolutionized therapeutic environmental approaches. The young man who had once stolen my jewelry now stood as a global innovator, his own journey of redemption inspiring countless others. Elena's artificial intelligence platform had expanded beyond our initial vision. Now utilized in over 50 countries, it provided personalized support strategies for patients facing chronic conditions, mental health challenges, and complex life transitions. What had begun as a veterans support network had transformed into a global healing ecosystem. The United Nations invited me to speak at a global healthcare innovation summit. My presentation wasn't just about medical strategies. It was a comprehensive exploration of human resilience, of reimagining support as a collaborative, creative process. Rachel had developed a comprehensive global training program for healthcare professionals, educational institutions, and community support organizations. The curriculum we'd developed challenged traditional approaches to patient care, mental health support, and community building. Frank's Innovation Fund had become a critical resource for emerging researchers and healthcare innovators. Grants Now supported projects across 6 continents, exploring innovative approaches to holistic healing, community support, and patient care. Marcus led a global veterans health initiative that had transformed support strategies worldwide. The network we'd created now connected veterans across cultural, geographical, and generational boundaries, providing unprecedented support resources. Our documentary had been translated into 17 languages, becoming a powerful tool for understanding family dynamics, personal transformation, and the human capacity for healing. Film festivals and educational institutions were using it as a resource for exploring resilience. The photography collection documenting our journey had become a traveling exhibition. Major museums around the world featured the work, exploring themes of healing, transformation, and human connection. Jason's landscape design consultancy had transformed healthcare environments globally. Hospitals, rehabilitation centers, and mental health facilities were implementing his innovative approaches to creating healing spaces that supported patient recovery and well-being. Elena developed a groundbreaking research initiative exploring the intersection of technology, creative expression, and healing. The project brought together experts from medical, technological, psychological, and artistic fields. The foundation launched a global scholarship program supporting innovative approaches to healthcare, community support, and personal transformation. Young researchers, healthcare professionals, and community leaders received support to develop groundbreaking initiatives. Rachel published a comprehensive series of books exploring holistic approaches to healthcare, family dynamics, and personal healing. The works became critical resources for healthcare professionals, educators, and individuals seeking transformative support strategies. Frank established an international think tank focused on innovative approaches to healthcare, community support, and social innovation. The organization brought together experts from various fields to explore comprehensive approaches to human well-being. Our technology platform expanded to provide support resources for individuals facing various life challenges. What had begun as a veterans support network had transformed into a global community of healing and connection. The medical research we'd initiated continued to challenge traditional healthcare paradigms. Universities worldwide were now exploring holistic approaches to patient care, drawing from the model we'd developed. Jason's work in therapeutic landscape design received international architectural awards. His approach to creating healing environments was reshaping how we understand the relationship between physical spaces and human well-being. Elena's artificial intelligence platform received recognition as a groundbreaking approach to personalized support. Technology companies were now exploring how to implement similar innovative support strategies. Marcus developed a comprehensive global veterans support network that transcended traditional geographical and cultural boundaries. The initiative provided unprecedented resources for veterans worldwide. The Foundation's work had become a model for comprehensive, holistic approaches to human support. Our strategies were being implemented in healthcare, education, community development, and social support systems. Our global network continued to expand, creating unprecedented opportunities for connection, support, and healing. What had begun as a personal journey had transformed into a global movement of transformation and hope. The Nobel Peace Prize nomination was more than a personal recognition. It was a testament to the power of choosing connection over isolation, of reimagining support as a collaborative, creative process. As I reflected on our journey, I realized something profound. The locks I'd changed years ago weren't just about physical security. They were an invitation to a different way of understanding ourselves, of supporting each other. Our story was still being written. Always. Time became a fluid concept, no longer measured by years, but by moments of transformation, by the ripples of impact we'd created. The Nobel Peace Prize ceremony was just another chapter in a story that had long since transcended individual achievement. Standing on that international stage, I looked out at a sea of faces representing decades of work, of healing, of reimagining human potential. Jason sat in the front row, alongside Elena, Rachel, and Frank, the core team that had turned a moment of personal betrayal into a global movement of hope. The speech I delivered wasn't about accolades. It was a call to reimagine support, to understand that healing is a collective journey. We are not defined by our wounds, I told the audience, but by our capacity to transform them into bridges of connection. Our foundation had become more than an organization. It was a living ecosystem of support, innovation, and human potential. The global network we'd created connected individuals across continents, cultures, and challenges. Jason's landscape design had transformed how we understood environmental healing. Hospitals, rehabilitation centers, educational institutions worldwide now implemented his approach to creating spaces that actively supported human recovery and well-being. Elena's artificial intelligence platform had become a global standard for personalized support strategies. The technology we'd developed was now used in healthcare, education, mental health support, and community development. Marcus had expanded the Veterans Support Network into a comprehensive global initiative. What had begun as a local support group had transformed into an international resource connecting veterans across generations, conflicts, and cultural boundaries. Rachel's educational programs were now integrated into medical schools, social work curricula, and community support training worldwide. Our holistic approach to healing had become a fundamental framework for understanding human resilience. Frank's Innovation Fund had supported groundbreaking research across multiple disciplines. The fund had become a critical resource for emerging innovators seeking to challenge traditional approaches to human support and healing. The documentary telling our story had been viewed by millions, translated into 25 languages. It was now used in educational institutions, therapy programs, and community support initiatives as a powerful tool for understanding transformation on Rise. Photography collection had become a global exhibition, exploring themes of resilience, healing, and human connection. Major museums worldwide featured the work, using it to challenge traditional narratives about trauma, recovery, and human potential. The scholarship program we'd established had supported hundreds of young innovators, researchers, and community leaders. Each recipient carried forward our mission of creating innovative approaches to human support and healing. International medical conferences now featured our holistic approach as a critical model for understanding patient care. The research we'd initiated had transformed how medical professionals understood healing, support, and human resilience. Technology companies had begun implementing the support strategies we'd developed. Our approach to personalized, compassionate support was reshaping how technology could be used to connect and heal. Global policymakers were now exploring our model of comprehensive support. The framework we'd developed was being considered for national healthcare strategies, veterans support programs, and community development initiatives. As I accepted the Nobel Peace Prize, I thought about the moment that had started everything. The stolen jewelry, the locked doors, the decision to choose myself. What had seemed like a personal crisis had become a global movement of transformation. The audience listened in profound silence as I shared our journey. Healing is not about fixing, I told them. It's about connection. It's about creating spaces, physical and emotional, where human potential can flourish. Jason's work in therapeutic landscape design had become a global standard. His approach demonstrated how physical environments could actively support human healing, recovery, and well-being. Elena continued to push the boundaries of technology and human support. Her research explored how artificial intelligence could be used not to replace human connection, but to enhance and deepen it. Marcus had developed a comprehensive global veterans support network that transcended traditional boundaries. The initiative provided unprecedented resources for veterans worldwide, addressing the complex challenges of military service and reintegration. Rachel's educational programs continued to expand, challenging traditional approaches to healthcare, social support, and human development. Her work was reshaping how we understood healing, support, and human potential. Frank's Innovation Fund had become a critical resource for emerging researchers and social innovators. The fund supported groundbreaking projects exploring new approaches to human support and healing. The foundation we'd created was now a global ecosystem of support, innovation, and human potential. What had begun as a personal journey had transformed into a movement that touched millions of lives. As the ceremony concluded, I looked out at the audience, a sea of faces representing hope, resilience, and the incredible power of human connection. The locks I'd changed years ago weren't just about physical security. They were an invitation to a different way of understanding ourselves, of supporting each other. Our story was still being written. Always. Invitation to listeners. If our journey resonated with you, if you believe in the power of resilience, in the possibility of transformation, then this story is for you. Subscribe to our channel to continue exploring stories of hope, of healing, of human potential. Hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and join a community that believes in the power of connection. Every story has the potential to change a life. Yours might be next. Subscribe now. Your journey of transformation begins here.